So today we are joined by Beshara Habib Chechman, who at age 18 is in the second stage of her medical student year at Haller Medical University, and she is a UNICEF influencer. She is a Chaldean Catholic from Iraq, a group that makes up less than 1% of the Iraqi population. And in the summer of 2017, Beshara participated in an exchange program in the United States called ILEP, or the Iraqi Youth Leadership Exchange Program, through which she spent time in Vermont and DC and 2 full weeks in Kansas City, living with a host family with Deb, who's actually with us today, and sharpening her communication and leadership skills. And one of the other individuals that Beshara met while in Kansas City was Claire Stern, who until recently served as the director of the Kansas City Interfaith Youth Alliance, who is joining us today to take part in a dialogue and hear how life in Iraq is and what you've been up to these last few years. So with that, Beshara and Claire, I'll turn it over to the two of you.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction, Courtney. I am super pumped to have this conversation with Beshara. I met her about 3 years ago, very briefly, when I was new to Kansas City. So it's nice to have this reunion. So Beshara, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about your daily life in Iraq and a little bit about what life looks like now with the COVID pandemic going on.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me so much. Thank you for all listening to me. So I would like to start with how I actually got into ILEP, and then from there I'd gradually get into today. So ILEP is an exchange program. It's a leadership program in which takes students from Iraq to the US. And in my stay, I had the opportunity to stay in Kansas City, as mentioned. That is where I met also Miss Sarah, which gave me the opportunity to be here and to talk to you guys. I was just 15 years old when I actually went to the US. So the whole experience, being without my parents and learning all of these leadership skills was very new to me. And it did really shape my personality in such a great way. So since then, I have been doing a lot of things. And should I get to that, or should I just answer your question? Because I think the later questions are regarding what I'm doing now.
Either way is fine.
Okay, great. So since then, I actually got into medical school, and I became a UNICEF influencer in which we advocate for children's rights, and we just stand against any injustices actually done to children everywhere, and specifically in Iraq, because as a lot of you know, there have been a lot of bad things going on in Iraq, especially to children, such as the rule that early child marriage was actually allowed. So there were a lot of horrific things happening, and we just knew that we need to stand up for them and back them up. Another thing is that, you know, with the whole medical school thing, you kind of lose yourself in the process. So I thought that I can actually get my passion and hobby also on my dish, because I felt like if I just dedicate my entire life for medicine, then that's just not worth it. I need to also take care of myself. I need to develop myself personally and just take care of my hobbies and passions. So that is why I also started focusing on singing, on playing instruments, on photography. And as a matter of fact, I have a song getting released in just a month, actually. So it's very refreshing to have these things, because when your plate is full, you'd look for things that you enjoy, and that is what I like. So fast forward to COVID. My life regularly is I wake up pretty early at around 8ish, and I think I made a UNICEF video about my daily life and what I do. But as I said, I wake up very early, and I actually do yoga in the mornings because we had yoga classes in our school, and I just picked that habit. I do some yoga, and then I proceed to getting a breakfast with the family. And then we go on. I actually have enrolled in many online classes, and currently I'm taking an online class that is given by Yale University. It's about anatomy. So yeah, after that I watch some series, and again I sing and I study. and spend family time as much as I can. And of course, take care of my health and my family as well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm curious, in your daily routine, how has your faith played a role in your current circumstances?
Okay, so I come from a very religious family. And of course, so prayers and fasting and all of these things are just principles for us. But what is also very important to us is just peace and love. And our household principles are just, built on respect and equality and empowerment and all of these things. So these principles have actually shaped the person that I am now. And, they've helped me achieve what I have achieved so far.
Awesome. Have you seen your faith influence your role as a medical student at all?
It has, actually, as a medical student and eventually a doctor. We've taken this whole concept of being a doctor as something very humanly and sacred. So that is how we also treat it. The ultimate goal is, of course, helping people. And I just feel like that goal I can practice every day and I can prepare for it as a medical student. So I take such a pride in this role that I am given.
Yeah. What role has your faith played in your identity as a young woman in the 21st century?
Okay, so basically, as I said, my faith, it revolves around peace and love. And since we always emphasize on the importance of youth empowerment, on women empowerment, and all of these things, especially in my household. So I'm bringing it all back to my household because we're very religious.
Mm-hmm.
So since the family was made on these principles of love and respect and equality and all of these things, so that has just shaped the woman that I am today.
Mm. One of the things that you got to participate in when you were here in Kansas City as an Iraqi student is interfaith dialogue. So I'm curious, how do you connect some of the world's most pressing issues with your interfaith multi-work?
Well, a lot of it goes back to peaceful coexistence. So if you're able to achieve this peaceful coexistence, then it's just, the ultimate thing, because as a result of peaceful coexistence, there's going to be a lot of comprehension and understanding. There's going to be less war. There's going to be just better atmosphere and a less intense one, so that we can all work harmoniously and peacefully together.
Mm. Do you have interfaith or multi-faith dialogue regularly in your home?
We do. We're very religious, but again, we're very open as well. As I mentioned in my biography, since we were always exposed to people of different faiths and religions and backgrounds, we just, it was something that grew in us to question others. So for example, to question our own path. So is this correct or is it not? So usually in religious like families, it would be a very strict, straight line. Ours would have a lot of interfaiths in it. So we would question stuff. We'd be like, okay, but does this make sense? Does it not? Does it maybe have something else behind it? Does it mean something else? So a lot of these interfaith dialogues made us more faithful in our religion. And yeah.
I think a lot of my former students would agree with you. One of the things that I often told them was a famous Walt Whitman quote, which is, be curious, not judgmental. So asking questions with good intent can really make a conversation and a relationship blossom. So I really appreciate you leading us that way as well.
Thank you.
What problems do you see in the world that need the most attention, and what actions have you specifically taken to make a difference?
I think there's a lack of youth empowerment. Um, to overcome problems now and in the future, we need the youth. So empowering these youth and making them like investing time, money, and energy into them to become leaders is very beneficial because I read something that if we actually have educated and leaders, and if we go for educating and empowering youth right now, it's going to lessen crime rates like no other. It's going to increase the social status of the country that you're living in because the youth are going to be more engaged into the education, and they'll invest more in that sector as well as just economically because if the youth is equipped with all of these essential skills, then he can utilize it to feed others, to help others, and to just be um, just assist whenever needed.
Mm.
And personally, I'm doing that by um, volunteering in many youth leadership organizations because I believe that I can't change something unless I change myself first or I learn it myself. So I participated in ILIP, which is a youth leadership program. I also participated in HOBY, which is Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership as well.
Yeah.
I participated in Innovation for Development and just many others. In school, we had this thing that was called SLO, which is Student Life Organization. We would also, give many webinars and seminars and many things to just help the youth and these students to get empowered, to get educated, to just, blossom in their own beautiful way and not get misdirected to the wrong things.
Mm. Are there folks that you look up to who have either empowered you directly or just folks that you aspire to lead like?
Personally, to get inspired, I take a little bit of everything. So there's no just this one person that I look to for everything. So for example, if I wake up, my mom has this thing that when she wakes up, she never wakes up like grumpy or sad or upset. She's always smiling. So I take that as an inspiration to start my day. And for example, when I'm discussing something, my dad is very passionate about discussing, and he also tends to make very valid points. So I take him as an inspiration in that field. So I take a little bit of everything or every person that I see, and I just, I get inspired by it.
I love that.
Thank you.
How do you see religious and secular, so non-religious organizations making progress in a community, like helping with peace, poverty, and civility?
I think through dialogue, a lot of them are progressing and learning actually to accept one another and to just let aside all the differences and work together and work so that we all live peaceful. Because I think at the end of the day, we all learned that getting into a place that would cause war and fighting is detrimental to both sides. So there's no real one winner. So I think through dialogue and understanding and just discussing things and reaching a common ground has been helping in the progression of many of these religious and secular organizations.
Do you have specific organizations that you see like highlighting this progress or working towards this progress?
Yes, actually, not long ago, before I joined medical school, I was in an organization called MESPO. It was Middle East Peace Sustainable Organization.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, the electricity. Okay, one thing about Iraq is that our electricity is so bad. We have like electricity 2-3 hours a day, and then it's just on and off, on and off. So I'm sorry if like the lights are gone or if you guys can't even hear me. I'm like 10
No, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, where were we? Okay, yes. So there's an organization called MESPO in which it's Middle East Sustainable Peace Organization. So it maintains peace. It's youth-led and youth-found. So basically it goes and does peaceful dialogues with people of different religions, different faiths, different backgrounds and ethnicities. So Yeah, I think just establishing this ground in which people are able to understand each other, and just being able to know what you believe in and me accepting it is just um, very assuring for the
Mm-hmm.
future, actually.
Yeah. And I think Global Ties also does a really great job of that too.
Yes. I thought you meant like local, so.
No, either way, either way.
Okay.
Do you consider your efforts as a person who is involved in youth leadership or youth empowerment, your medical school work to be part of your life's purpose?
Yes, I do actually. As I mentioned earlier, my life's purpose is mostly helping people and just serving my community and helping them in any way. So, being a medical student does that in a scientific way. And um, my daily routine and my participation in organizations and influencing and all of that things does it in a more humanitarian way as well. So I think that the steps that I'm taking are all to the ultimate goal of serving my community.
I love it. I love it so much.
Thank
It makes my
you.
heart so happy. What is your go-to verbiage when you encounter intolerance or some type of exclusionary language? And how do you redirect a conversation?
Well, usually you can tell from the person if he's trying to have an educated conversation with you, or if he's just attacking you or attacking your belief.
Mm-hmm.
So if I see that the person is actually trying to learn from me, then we sit down and we discuss it, because I believe that just discussing it and having a neutral understanding and reaching a common ground does so much. Even I may not bring the person to my side, or my side to his. I don't know if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But if we reach a common ground to the fact that we can all just live peacefully coexistently, there's no big deal in that. Or for example, if you are ex-phobic, just let them be. Everyone is free, just how you are free, everyone else is free. So that kind of stuff, reaching a common ground in that is very important. But again, the key is just seeing if the person is able to get that. Oh, electricity's back. So as a minority, we like to avoid any kind of intensity, because at the end of the day, we're just a very, very small percentage and everyone else outnumbers us enormously.
Mm.
So yeah, if there's any space in which I feel like the person can actually understand me, or we can have something in common and reach a place in which we both agree in, I just go for it and we go for a discussion.
Have you ever found yourself using specific things like I statements, saying like, this is what I believe, while being firm in your own beliefs and letting room for somebody else's beliefs come through? Like, is there specific language that you use?
With these languages, they just come along the way. There's nothing specific, but I do use the I statement. I'm like, I believe in this, so what do you believe in?
Mm.
And then at the end of the day, we just reach an agreement somewhat. And yeah.
What parts of your religious identity or perspective intersect and or inspire you to be a role model for young people?
So as I said earlier, I find inspiration in everything. So smiles, random acts of kindness, simplicity, authenticity, all of these things, or just my own dreams and goals and aspirations. All of these just inspire me to be the best version of myself. And when people see you taking care of yourself, improving yourself, and reaching your own goals, they're automatically gonna find a vision and find something in you in which they can take as role model for themselves. So I may not completely as a person be their role model, but they're gonna take that thing from me. So it may be my smile, my information, my authenticity, my simplicity, all these things.
Do you have a piece of sacred text that informs you of that belief? It's not just like the external factors, but like something definitely from your faith tradition that inspires you?
I think I have something, but because our Bible is in Arabic,
Mhm.
so you may actually not get it.
Okay.
So I think it's translated into this in English. It says, "Let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, then all of your ways will be sure." So this just gives me hope that to just stay dedicated on my goals. And I think that's just the best inspiration.
Yeah. Is there a particular part of your religious practice that you, or prayer or something like that?
Oh, of course, prayers do a lot. I would say particularly my prayers before sleeping, because we were taught that before we sleep, we have to think of everyone else and how, so reflect on our days and see where we went wrong, see where we went right, how we could have done better, and also pray for other people. So just that reflection on our days, again, builds on us improving ourselves, which again can be something very motivational for other people to take.
Absolutely. What are some key moments in your faith journey and youth leadership journey?
Key moments, there have been a lot actually. So I think the most memorable one would be when I was a kid. Actually, very, like, I was a baby. I was like 3 or 4. Kids would refuse to play with me, or because of my faith. And that is not something that a child would get. So it's, of course, from the family that has raised him that if someone is different from you, then they're a threat. So, and as I grew up, I saw so many of that, and it's very sad because at home, I was taught to like be polite to everyone, regardless of what they think of me, regardless of how they treat me. So seeing me being polite to someone and then someone is just not playing with me or not being friends with me as a kid was very hurtful. So I would always question, like, what am I doing wrong? Why, I don't get it. But then when I grew up, I realized that it's just the foundation that needs fixing. Because these kids, they knew nothing. It was just their family, and then their family was actually, their father was their grandpa who taught the father that this, like, being with someone with a different faith may threat your own faith. So, and stuff like that. So I think these moments kind of built up, and thankfully now it's much better. People are more understanding and more open-minded and more educated, which gives me so much hope. So that's a good thing.
Definitely. What is the most inspiring act you've seen as of late?
I think it is the unity. So, for example, there was a while, not a while ago, Turkey invaded Iraq, a little place not far away from here, actually, like a matter of an hour or two. They invaded it and many innocent civilians just died. So the youth just took it to Twitter and they started attacking Twitter with hashtags. They just made new hashtags every day, dedicated like an hour or two of their days to just hashtag every single minute until we were like world trending. So I think that unity in times of need is something very hopeful and very inspiring action, just like the Black Lives Matter movement and so many other movements that have been happening lately. It's a good thing.
Is there something that you would like to share with future youth members in Iraq that are considering the program that you went through?
Eileen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they should all go for it because, well, for high school, you would be at the age of 15, 16 when you go to the US. Without your parents, with having, of course, mentors and all of these people and meeting new people, it's very eye-opening. You get exposed to very weird things. You get exposed to different people, different backgrounds, different religions. and stuff that you can't really do here. That's, yeah, I would recommend it 100%. That's besides, of course, all the leadership training that they're gonna get. And
have you used some of the tools that you gained from your trip to the United States?
I have every single day, actually. Was was that the whole question, or?
Oh, did I cut out?
I guess it's just
Um,
like a little word left, and I'm like, may you please repeat the question?
have you used some of the training, the leadership training that you received here in the United States back in Iraq with some of the youth that you've been working with?
Yes, I actually use the things and the methods I've learned in the US every single day here, from my interactions with people, from also my interactions with myself. So self-care, I learned a lot of self-care in the US. So like mental health as well. It's not something that is very popular here. So I think mental health was also something that I learned, that I'm practicing every single day. And yeah.
That's wonderful to hear.
Thank you.
All right, those are the questions that I had. I know we're schedule. Is it okay if we open up for Q&A?
Yeah,
Sure, let's
absolutely.
begin.
Okay.
And I have a couple other questions, Beshara. So you alluded to this, but throughout your 18 years on this planet, have you seen people in your community in Iraq become more tolerant and open-minded? And then if we asked your parents the same question over their lives, what would they say and why? If you could give us some background of how things are changing or may have changed in your community over your lifetime.
Right. Thank you so much for the question. It's actually very important because, as I said in the beginning, when I was a kid, I would get a lot of bad treatment due to my difference, which was in my faith and my ethnicity. So now it's so much better because my brother is now a student in the same school, and he's being treated so much better. And there's always this small percentage that is an extremist, but the majority are very nice to him and very accepting, actually. So I think it goes back to the education, and I would think also social media. Back then, there was not enough awareness. That is, like, back then, I don't know about the US, but here there was no social media. So people could not really raise awareness, and there wasn't so much of a freedom to do so. So now that there is this freedom, I think people are more aware that, there's not much of a difference between us at the end of the day. We're all humans, and we also saw the consequences of if we don't peacefully coexist together, what can happen. It can be, as I said, detrimental to both sides. So I think we just learned to live peacefully together and just to accept each other the way we are.
And just Iraq in general. So for those in the United States who have never been to the Middle East and have never taken the time to research and learn about your country, can you, just describe where you live and what your community looks like, and just a little bit of background of kind of what culture and society looks like in your city?
Sure. So Iraq, modern day Iraq, is actually called Mesopotamia or Babylon. Mesopotamia is a cradle of civilization. It is the cradle of astronomy, astrology, modern mathematics, or even writing. A lot of things actually, if you trace the roots, the earliest roots came from Mesopotamia. The region where I live in is called Kurdistan region. Kurdistan region is an autonomous region in which we have our own government, our own army, language, anthem, and yeah, pretty much everything. So we're self-governed. We have a citadel. We have, it's the most continuously inhabited citadel. It's called Qalat. And it's like it's where, so my city is called Erbil. So this would be the citadel, and everywhere else is built around that city, around the old Erbil, which is now the modern Erbil, if that makes sense. So it's just like a circle. I think I can show you guys a picture somehow. So yeah, that's just like a quick update about Iraq.
And then one of the questions that came in from someone who registered, and I'll read it as it was written, is what are some of the communication tools that you utilize to bridge differences of opinion, whether it be religion, morals, or ideology?
So the language, does he mean?
Or just tools. I know you mentioned social media. What are the main kind of social media tools that you use, or are different, different means of communication?
Yeah, well, in number one, I would say social media. And number two, I would also say school. We have a lot of these things where people from university or other schools come to our school and give seminars and stuff like that. So all of that intersection of path actually makes you more exposed to different kinds of people and different kinds of backgrounds, and eventually just accept it because it's just the way it is. And I think in social media, especially now where I live, we look to the West for a lot of things. So seeing that the West is going through, for example, is fighting racism, we're advocating for the same thing. Like if we see something racist, we just spot it out and we stand up for it. Like we stand up against racism for a good purpose. So I think these would probably be the tools. Social media would go for school, sometimes organizations, but during COVID, we don't really have these anymore. And yeah.
Any questions from anyone who's on the call?
I have one. I would kind of like to emphasize some of the points that you brought up of mostly with like people with extreme views and how to better have conversations with someone who, at least in my experience, I found difficulty even beginning the conversation with. So this could even be with like the full group. I would love to have more discussion on how to even approach someone with who may not be as comfortable even beginning a conversation, because at least in my experience, I haven't had good luck with that. So if you have any experiences or any thoughts into that, I would love to learn more about it.
So approaching extremists, you said?
Yeah, even beginning the conversation, because like I said, I don't know if you've had the same experience, but approaching someone with really extreme views, it's even hard to begin the conversation, right? It's hard to get almost anywhere. So I'm just curious if you've had similar experiences and what those might have looked like.
Here, as I said, there's a difference. Since we're a minority, we don't really like getting ourselves in much trouble because usually discussions get escalated real fast with extremists. So we don't really tend to start a conversation, but if they do, and we see that they have good intentions behind it, and if they want to learn from it, for example, we just go ahead and we talk about it, and we're very slow about it. We try not to be as direct. We don't bring verses from their holy book, and we don't attack their their mullahs. And how we have priests, they have mullah. We don't attack them personally. We just have these wide general opinions, I guess. And at the end of the day, I think I always ended with, at the end of the day, we both encourage peace and we both encourage love. So let's just, we have a lot of differences, but let's just set them aside and focus on things that we have in common. So I think this would be a way I would communicate with an extremist.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So like, if I understand what you're saying, right, I'm really hearing, one, it's de-escalation from the beginning and making sure that everyone is good to go. So de-escalation, and then empathy and like ways that you can connect and understand each other.
Exactly.
And then no attacks, obviously. So not even.
No personal attacks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Cindy?
Hi, Beshara. I was going to ask about young people in politics. Are you seeing, I know you mentioned Twitter and the Turkish invasion. Are you seeing a trend in young people being more politically motivated and really speaking their voice, whether it be through social media, other organizations, or kind of learning how to navigate the politics of Kurdistan and Iraq and even the region to ensure that those conversations and politics of tolerance are really starting to grow?
So as a matter of now, and like the past 100 years-ish, there have been a lot of parties in Kurdistan. So for example, if someone is an advocate of a certain party, they would go all over the social media about it. And they'd get very defensive if someone else says something different about it. So it has been happening for a really long time, but what I see different now is that people are coming up with their independent views. So it's not, their views is not dependent on a certain party. It may be against this party, like in certain views, and with it in some other certain views.
Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
As we're watching the news in the next few weeks and few months and few years as Americans in the United States, what are things that we should be keeping an eye on in Kurdistan and Iraq?
About that, wait.
So what are important things that would be good for us to be aware of and making sure that we're following particular news stories in your country?
Yeah, well, the first thing I think that you should stop being on one side of the media, because the media always portrays Iraq as if it's a war 24/7. Like when I went to the US, the first thing they asked me is that, do you guys still ride on camels, or do you guys have TVs or phones? So I think everyone should start actually researching about Iraq and Kurdistan, because in the media, the only thing they're gonna probably emphasize on is the wars and everything bad going on. So there's so much more to Iraq and Kurdistan than just wars. And there are, especially because of the COVID thing, there are a lot of small businesses blossoming. There are many people who are accomplishing many great things. And I think that these people need recognition, these people need appreciation, and yeah. So I think just the support from you guys would mean a lot to us.
Beshara, I have a quick question for you. What
Sure.
is your favorite thing about identifying as an Iraqi or member of the Kurdistan community?
This may be very personal, but I wanted to be an astrophysicist before getting into medicine. Mm-hmm. So just the fact that astrology and astronomy came from Iraq, I'm very proud of that. But like generally, I would say that we were like the first civilization, so everything else, all the other civilizations kind of came out from this. So we take so much pride in our ancestors. It's crazy.
What were your thoughts about the Midwest of the United States before coming here?
As a 15-year-old, I would think of the US as being New York, Washington, D.C., that's it. So we would, like Los Angeles and partying and all of these things. So when I went to the US and when I stayed in Kansas, I saw so much more to the US than just, New York and just late night partying and stuff like that. So, so I also learned that you guys really care about developing yourselves, both mentally and physically. And so that was very assuring, especially as a kid, as a 15-year-old, especially in Iraq, you are overwhelmed with so many political views and myself, so much information from school. So I didn't really have that capacity to go outside these boxes. So when I went to the US, it was just like a whole new world of, self-care, self-improvement and stuff like that. So a lot of new stuff.
All right. Thank you so much, Beshara, for
It's
sharing
an honor.
your
It was an honor.
stories with us. I feel like I just grew tenfold in compassion for you and your beloved country. So
Thank you.
I'm going
It
to toss
was
it
a
back over
pleasure.
to Courtney
Sure.
to close us out if she has any final announcements.
Yeah, Bashar, I just wanted to say, Sarah and I have talked about you many times over the years since you were here, and your attitude and passion and the way that you approach your life and the world. You are an inspiration, and I
Thank you.
truly, truly love the fact that we get to count you as an alumni of the Global Ties KC program, and are so, so happy to see what you've been up to the last couple of years, and thrilled to see what you're going to do in the decades to come. So we're very grateful for you for the time that you spent with us today. If you ever need anything from Kansas City, we are here and happy
Thank you.
to support you in your journey however we may. So thank you again for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Claire, thank you as well for taking time to do this. We'll have some other programs coming up in the next few weeks and are always, happy to involve those that we may and to share little stories of what's going on around the world with our local community and make those connections. So thank you guys, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you soon.